Hey folks, Jeff here at Back to Country. Appreciate you joining us here on the channel today. Well, today I'm continuing to do some work on my electrical system, making slow but sure progress. We've got all of our panels basically wired up, still little minor things to do. Still got to connect our service wire and everything, but we've got a problem there. I've got to bury that wire, and well, damn rodents got into my excavator again, chewed some wires, so it won't start. Cranks over, but it don't start up. So I got to go in and find all the chewed wires, repair them, and hopefully that'll fix the problem. Again, this happens to me every year. No matter what I try, it keeps happening. And I've tried a lot of different stuff, so is what it is. So what are we doing on the panel today? So working on the main panels. Remember, we've got a split 400 amp system going into two 200 amp panels. This is our outside panel. The other panel's on the inside. So what we're going to do is we're going to be installing a whole house surge protector, or an SPD, surge protection device. We researched a bunch of different devices, and we chose the Siemens FS140. So best I can tell, this is one of the best ones out there. There may be other ones that, you know, you can debate better or not, but my research, this is the one I chose. I think it's just based on everything I could find, one of, if not the best one out there. So that's what we went for. These, if you just search them, you'll find them for over $300 each. But I'm here to tell you, you can get them for less than $200. These are available pretty much anytime on Amazon for less than $200. You can find them elsewhere as well for less than $200. But there are a lot of sites out there that charge a heck of a lot more, upwards beyond $300 even. To me, that's just gouging and take advantage of people. But do your research, make sure that you're getting the best price for this or whatever else you decide to buy. Now, as far as mounting this thing goes, reading all the instructions, looking at other people's videos and everything, the way the company recommends is that, first off, as far as breakers go, they recommend a 20 amp 2-pole breaker. So basically that means that it's a 20 amp breaker, but it connects, there we go, connects to 2 poles. So remember, this box, we don't have any power connected to the building at all yet, so we don't have to worry about it being hot. Obviously, if your panel was hot, you wouldn't be doing this, or you'd be dying. There's no electricity at all in this yet. So we got a 20 amp breaker that's 2 poles. So what that does is that chooses 2 legs, which means that you are using both of your hots. So if we say line 1, line 2, it's using both lines. This side here comes down, that tab goes in, that's your line 1. The other tab comes from the other side, which is the red wire, and that's your line 2. And so if you come across those, it's 240 volt. If you come a single one by itself, 120 volt. So that's your 2 poles. And so we're gonna send or connect this surge protection device to each pole so that each one has some level of protection. It's also gonna connect to our neutral bar. Now remember the way that we're doing it, neutral and ground are not bonded in this box because it's bonded at the first disconnect, and this is downstream from there. So the neutral bar, we left it bonded, but we're using both sides as neutral, and then we put in separate grounding bars down the sides there, which ground to the box itself, and that's where our ground wire is connected. So a little bit different maybe than some panels. Whatever panel you got, this is a GE panel. Of course, if you have different brands, they'll be a little bit different as well. So if you're going to do this yourself, pay attention to where neutral, ground, and your hots are, because that's very critical for the installation of this. If you screw it up, or your neutral and ground are not properly bonded in accordance with the National Electrical Code, then this will be void at a minimum, but it also can die faster according to the company and the instructions. So wires coming out of this thing, we have two black wires, which are your two hots, and they're got little labels on them that are, say, A and C. A is line 1, C is line 2. You've got a green and yellow wire, that is your ground, and then you've got a white wire, that is your neutral. So not difficult to figure out the wiring. As far as how to do this wiring, so they recommend that you keep the wires as short as possible and as straight as possible. So you're going to want to mount as close to your breaker and your neutral and ground as possible, so that you can meet all those requirements. Now, as far as straight goes, obviously it's pretty hard to keep all your wires exactly straight. I mean, you can look at our wires here, they've got bends in them, because that's how it works with wire placement in a panel. It's pretty hard to get everything exactly straight. So there's no way that we can come in and make all of our wires perfectly straight. If you look at the instructions, even the instructions do show 90-degree bends in the wires and everything. Now we run into another problem. So best case scenario would be to have a knockout or something on the side and come straight in, and then straight over to your breakers, and then just make slight bends to get your neutral and your ground. We don't have that luxury. I don't want to mount this. I mean, number one, with the R panel and the peaks and valleys, there's no real easy way to mount this thing on a wall and come straight in, and our box is off of the wall, so we would have to put some sort of mount on the wall. I don't like that, and I don't like to penetrate my wall, my sheeting, any more than I absolutely have to. So that option is out. I'm not going to do it that way. Some people put them at the bottom and hang them. If you do that, you can put your breaker at the bottom, and then just come up there, but you're still going to come straight up and have some 90s in your wires there, and your wires are going to be longer. So I don't like that option. Of course, there is some debate out there. The manufacturer's instructions suggest putting the breaker as close to the main breaker as possible. So if you put your breaker down here, yes, it will still work, but again, you're further from that main breaker, so it's recommended to put that breaker in the first slot. Which side doesn't matter, because it's still going to get the first slot on both of your hot legs. So I decided I want to go on this side, and the reason is because what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount this directly to the side of the panel. Now, I don't know if that's legal. I could not find anything, you know, just searching the internet looking for any kind of code or anything that says you can or can't do it. So I don't see any rule against it, so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to mount it. Now, I put a 90 on this, so it's got a 3/4 inch threaded inlet on this side, and like I say, you can either come out with a straight, you can use flex, you can do all kind of different stuff. I think this is called an EMT 90. It's basically a galvanized 90. It's got a threaded side, and I screwed that in and it did seat tight. I will probably come back and caulk that just to weather seal it perfectly, even though it really won't be in the weather. And then that's got you can take the cap off here so that you can work your wires through. So that is going to run our wires out of there and down straight in, which is going to give us a 90 in those wires. But like I say, when you look at all the instructions and everything, even the picture shows there are 90s in it. So I don't think it's the end of the world. It may not be ideal. If I had a different backing here, if I had this mounted up to the side of a house or something like that and it was a flat surface, then I would probably mount it straight to the side of the house with a straight piece coming right in as short as possible. As short a possible piece there. Keep my wires as short as I could and come straight on through into the breaker, and same thing. But I would do it straight through like that instead of doing this 90. Now the pros and cons of that, like I say, the con is that I've got a 90 there to deal with, but it's the only 90 in our hot leads, and our ground is only going to have that 90 and then some slight bends to get into the grounding bar, and the neutral bar will have slight bends, very minimal. I think the neutral I can almost come straight in, but the ground I will have to bend slightly. So I think that's okay, and from all the videos I saw and everything, how other people are doing it, it's good enough. I'm confident it's not going to be an issue. The other pro is that by having it on the side here, our entrance to the building and everything as far as the living quarters is down there. So I can literally walk outside, look right on the side. It's got lights and everything, and I'll be able to see that from over there without having to walk up to it or anything. So it makes it highly visible, and I guess that's a pro. And yeah, so that's how we're gonna do it. That's the plan, so stick with us. Let's see how it goes. First thing I'm gonna have to do, the only knockout is down here. I want it up here, so I'm gonna have to do some drilling and do that first, make a knockout myself to mount this through. So that's where we're gonna start. All right, folks, so first thing I did, I measured down from the top to the center of the breaker. That gave me 12.5 inches. And then I kind of held the surge protector up against the side and kind of went to the center where that gave me 2 inches from the back. And so basically I put a little mark on the side here on those measurements, and that's where I'm going to drill my hole. The wind is unfortunately blowing a little bit, so it keeps blowing my door closed. So there's my mark. Wow, that actually bent the drill bit on that. That wasn't good at all. All right, so I'm gonna have to fix that. That's crazy. All right, haven't had that happen before, but bent the pilot bit, weirdest thing. Maybe I was putting too much pressure on it, uneven, I don't know, but we're good. Okay, not as clean as I would prefer, but we got a hole, it'll work. So next thing I'm gonna do is just kind of put this in place. Fits up just fine. Put my locking nut on the inside here to kind of hold it. And I do have a bushing for that as well, because that is a metal nipple and definitely don't want that chafing the wires. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some just short self-tapping screws in a couple of the holes to hold that in place. Okay, I just got a couple of short self-tappers here, and that's what I'm going to use to mount this thing in place. I do want to pay attention to where my wires are on the inside so I don't hit anything. I'm only going to put 2. I think that's plenty. So I'm just eyeballing it to try to get it straight up and down on the panel. Pretty close. And one, holds it pretty tight. I'm going to go ahead and put a second one in just for security, I guess. And there, that's on there pretty solid. And I can go ahead and tighten that lock ring in there as well. Okay, so that thing is on there good and tight. Now if rain comes down, this box is weather proof, weather resistant, whatever you want to call it. It's sealed. And so the only place that any rainwater could possibly get in is around the fitting there. So I will come back and caulk that when I'm done, just so that it's extra protected. I don't know that it's necessary, but if you've been watching me long, you know that's pretty much how I roll on everything. I'm kind of over-engineer everything at 10, so I'm gonna feed my wires in. I'm just trying to pull all these tight through so everything's in there good and smooth. So like I said, we've got 2 wires here. One's got an A and one's got a C. A is your line 1 and C is your line 2. basically 2 hots. I'm not sure that it actually matters which side it goes on, but I'm trying to do everything line 1, line 2. That's just the way I'm doing it. That's why I went ahead and color coded my wires and everything. Probably not a requirement, but again, that's how I roll. The wind is working against me here. So I'm just starting by opening up my 2 hots on these breakers, and my plan is to come straight across with the wire and into the breaker. So the key, of course, is to make sure that you get enough wire, but not too much, because if you cut this short, you are screwed. You might as well have to buy another surge protector, because they don't want you splicing into these. And remember, your block is set back in there. So I just cut that real short. That was my A wire. Now here's my C wire. And I'm going to cut that off at exactly the same length, because you always want your phases to be the exact same. And there we go. Our 2 hot wires are exactly the same length. Now I'm going to put a little piece of red tape on that line 2 wire, just so that kind of color coding it and marking it that that's the line 2, because the A and the C tags were way down the wire. And I figure if the company cares enough to mark them for line 1 and line 2, then I ought to care enough as well. So even though they're both black, they're both hot, obviously, I'm just putting that extra marker on there for line 1 and 2. Now I'm going to strip some wire off. Then I'm going to go ahead and pull this out so that I get it fed in there just perfect. And I'll torque them down afterwards. For now, I'm just tightening them in there. So those wires are a little bit on the long side, not by much. A little bit disorganized in the back here. It's fine, but I like it to be perfect. I don't know why. Call it OCD. There we go. And here is the finished product. So the surge protector mounted to the side of the box. We got a 90 going through. It's not quite finished. I got to close this up still, but here's the wiring. So our ground, we just looped around into our grounding bar there. Our neutral, we came across to our neutral bar, and our two hots go right into our breaker. So the only serious bend, it's got this 90 here. Our two hots go straight from there. I mean, they're dead on straight, and I cut them as short as possible, so there's no extra wire anywhere. My neutral, 90 there, and then just slight bends down to the first slot in the neutral bar. And the ground a little more with the 90 there, and then just kind of a loop over. So it's sort of 180, but it's a big sweeping loop there, so I think it's just fine. It's not a sharp bend. None of these have a sharp bend. I mean, even if you look here inside, you can see that the 90s there, they're not that sharp. They're kind of sweeping 90s. A lot of space for smaller wires there, so I think we're good. We got a bushing on there, got our lock ring on there. Our wire is got plenty of room in there, and that should do it. All right, we put the cover on there. It does have a rubber seal in it, so more weatherproof. And just a little other extra precaution, I had some little rubber tabs here that they were from another project that I didn't need them. Anyway, so I went ahead and put those over those self-tapping screws, just so that nothing can ever rub up against those and chafe. So like if I were to run wires up here, they won't chafe on there and rub themselves somehow, go to ground. So just a little extra precaution. Not necessary, but again, that's how I roll. So everything looks great. Real happy with how everything looks and how it came out. Once we have power, we'll check the voltage and everything on everything. Make sure our legs are 120 where they're supposed to be and everything's good, and then we'll power this baby up. So for now, it's going to stay in the off position, and of course we'll have to put the cover on here and everything. I am going to put a little bit of caulking around this just as a precaution. Again, not necessary, and I don't really think, based on the position, that it's really going to get wet or anything. But I'll go ahead and caulk it just to be extra good, I guess. And like I say, this is the side here. You've got alarm lights. You've got, this is a red light would be here for your alarm. Your A and your C leg, which is line 1 and 2, have green lights, and they can, you know, do all kind of things for faults and whatever. So that's all in the instructions. But I'm happy with the way the installation worked. I'm going to install the one on the inside the exact same way, so I'll show it to you when I'm done. Here's the inside one. basically the same. Maybe my wires are a little bit longer just based on the placement of the ground and neutral bars, but not a big deal. And I put it a little bit higher than the other one, so my wires here are slightly longer, but again, a negligent amount, not enough to make a difference. The instructions just say, you know, keep everything short as possible and try not to put a bunch of bends in it. As short and as straight as possible, I think is what it said, something to that effect. But you only need one of these in a whole house system. I went ahead and put 2 of them because I have 2 separate legs, and if one of those legs happened to be disconnected and the other one not, maybe one was turned off at a time, I just wanted to make sure that I had that double coverage. And at less than $200 each, I figured is worth the expenditure for the extra peace of mind, because this is Texas and we do get a lot of thunderstorms. So that's where my mind was at in doing that, and I'm good with it. Well, if you stuck with us this far, we made it through another one. I don't know what's next because I got a lot of stuff to do, so we'll just have to wait and see. But appreciate y'all hanging with us and watching our videos, and hopefully they help you out in some way. As always, take care. God bless. We'll see you on the next one.